My ex-husband and his new wife forced my daughter to wear a steel brace and made her back deformed. I am so unbelievably pissed off by the pain they caused my daughter. My ex-husband and I share custody of my 9-year-old daughter. She stays with me most of the time and visits their house on weekends. If I could, I would have full custody, but the court deemed that it would be in the best interest of my child to see both parents in some way. Recently, I noticed how my daughter would complain about having a painful back after every visit. I asked her if she maybe played a more extreme activity over the weekend or if the bed she uses was uncomfortable there. She said no to both of my questions, so I figured it was fine. But my mom instincts were kicking in, telling me that something was very clearly wrong. Rather than heading straight home, I brought my daughter to a local clinic for a checkup and x-ray. The doctors pulled me to the side asking additional questions after receiving the labs, and I informed them that I had just picked up my daughter from my ex-husband's house. The doctor discussed how my daughter's x-ray showed unusual compression on the spine, as if someone was forcing my daughter in a confined space for extended periods of time. She asked for permission to check my daughter's back, and when we lifted her shirt to examine her back, we saw marks showing that a metal brace may have been there, causing bruises on her ribs and redness along her spine. The doctor informed me that she would have to call the cops on my ex-husband and investigate their premises to retrieve the brace. I of course had no problem with that, and in the meantime, I spoke to my daughter to get more information and held her close to me. I apologized for making her go through that every weekend. During the investigation, his new wife talked about using the brace as a form of discipline, that it was basically the same thing as wearing a corset, which women always wore in the past. The officers were clearly dumbfounded at her comments, even more so when my ex-husband supported her claims. I filed the paperwork for full custody, but the court allowed supervised visitation because of his otherwise very clean record. The first visit was fine, but the second visitation led to another steel brace incident. This time, my daughter knew that it was wrong. When they were busy and looking away, she left the premises of the house and went up the street to a neighbor who is a police officer. The neighbor called paramedics and her co-workers to cut the brace off my daughter. My husband and his wife were promptly arrested. This time, the CPS and officers stopped beating around the bush since it was a second offense for the same thing. However, I'm still incredibly angry at how slow and incompetent the CPS process was. The new brace this time was tightened so much that my daughter had a dislocated shoulder. Update: yes, she needs surgery, and we currently have a GoFundMe to help cover some of the costs. The longer we wait, the less likely she'll be able to go back to playing sports or act like a normal child.